My name is Emily Chen, and I never expected to become the owner of Bella Rosa, the once legendary Italian restaurant in downtown Boston. Especially not as a final act of spite from my mother-in-law, Isabella Romano. The day of the will reading was exactly what you'd expect from a Romano family gathering, dramatic, tense, and designed to maximize emotional damage. The lawyer's office was too small for the crowd of relatives, all dressed in expensive black designer wear, all expecting their piece of Isabella's considerable estate. To my son Anthony, my pride and joy, Mr. Davidson read from the will, I leave my primary residence in Beacon Hill, valued at $2.8 million, and my summer house in Cape Cod. My husband squeezed my hand, but not in comfort. His grip was triumphant. To my daughter Maria, I leave my investment portfolio, currently valued at $1.5 million, and all my jewelry. Maria shot me a smug look from across the room. She'd never forgiven me for stealing her brother, despite the fact that Anthony and I had been married for 5 years. And to my daughter-in-law Emily, Mr. Davidson paused, and I could have sworn I saw him suppress a wince. I leave my beloved restaurant Bella Rosa with all its current challenges. Maybe managing a failing business will finally teach her the value of proper Italian cooking, something she clearly never learned despite my many attempts to educate her. The room erupted in poorly concealed laughter. I sat there, face burning, as Isabella's final insult landed exactly as she'd intended. Even in death, she had found a way to remind everyone that I, a Chinese-American chef with classical French training, had never been good enough for her precious Italian family. The restaurant's current market value, Mr. Davidson continued, clearly wanting to get this over with, is estimated at negative $247,000. Accounting for outstanding debts and needed repairs. More snickers. Everyone knew Bella Rosa had been struggling for years. What had once been Boston's premier Italian restaurant was now barely keeping its doors open, surviving mostly on memories and the occasional tourist who didn't read reviews. Emily, Maria's husband Marco called out, "If you want to sell that money pit, I'm sure we can work something out. Say $50,000? Save you the headache of watching it fail even more spectacularly." I looked around the room at my husband's family. The same people who had spent 5 years criticizing my cooking, my career choices, my very existence. Anthony was already nodding at Marco's offer, probably calculating how quickly he could get his hands on that $50,000. "No," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "I think I'll keep it." The drive home was tense. Anthony couldn't understand why I wouldn't take Marco's generous offer. "Be reasonable, Emily. You know nothing about running an Italian restaurant." Mama was right about that, at least. I stared out the window, thinking about my own grandmother's small restaurant in Chicago's Chinatown, where I'd first learned to love cooking. About the prestigious Culinary Institute of America, where I'd graduated top of my class. About the Michelin-starred restaurants in New York and Paris where I'd trained before moving to Boston. "I'm going to the restaurant," I said as soon as we got home. "Don't wait up. Emily, don't be difficult about this. Just sell it to Marco and..." I was already out the door. Bella Rosa sat on a prime corner in Boston's North End, its once elegant facade now showing its age. The neon sign flickered weakly in the early evening light, and the windows needed cleaning. But even through years of neglect, I could see what this place had once been. I used the keys Mr. Davidson had given me to let myself in. The dining room was empty. The restaurant had been closed since Isabella's death 3 weeks ago. The chairs were stacked on tables and a layer of dust had settled over everything. But it was the kitchen that called to me. I'd never been allowed in here during Isabella's life. She'd made it clear that her kitchen was off-limits to amateurs. Now I walked slowly through the space, running my hands over stainless steel counters, examining the professional-grade equipment that hadn't been properly maintained in years. In the back corner, a door led down to the basement. The stairs creaked under my feet as I descended, switching on my phone's flashlight. The basement was a maze of storage rooms and wine racks, most of them empty now. But something caught my eye, a door that didn't quite match the others, its paint slightly different. It took some effort to open, the hinges protesting years of disuse. Inside was a small office, untouched for what looked like decades. Dust-covered photos on the walls showed a much younger Isabella with an elderly woman I recognized from family photos. Her grandmother, Rosa, the original owner of Bella Rosa. On the desk sat a leather-bound book, its pages yellow with age. My hands trembled slightly as I opened it and I gasped. Page after page of handwritten recipes, notes and cooking secrets, all in Rosa's elegant handwriting. This wasn't just a recipe book. It was the heart of what had made Bella Rosa legendary. I sat down in the old office chair, carefully turning the pages. Each recipe told a story, not just ingredients and methods, but the heritage of Italian cooking passed down through generations. Notes in the margins revealed secret techniques, special ingredient sources, the little details that could turn a good dish into an unforgettable one. But there was something else too. Between the recipes were business notes, supplier contacts, and most intriguingly, details about a secret blend of herbs and spices that Rosa had sourced from a small farm in Tuscany. The same blend that had made Bella Rosa's sauce famous across New England. My phone buzzed. Another text from Anthony. Marco raised his offer to $75,000. Don't be stubborn about this, Emily. I looked around the dusty office at the history hidden away down here, at the legacy Isabella had never bothered to uncover. She had been so busy maintaining her idea of tradition that she'd lost touch with what had actually made this place special. I opened my notes app and began documenting everything. The recipes, the techniques, the supplier notes, especially the contact information for that farm in Tuscany. Then I started making calls. First to my old mentor from culinary school, Chef Jean-Pierre. Emily, ma chérie. A traditional Italian restaurant? How intriguing. Tell me more. Then to my former colleagues from Lou Bernardine in New York. Looking for a new challenge? How do you feel about reinventing a legend? Finally, to my best friend Lucy, who had built her own successful restaurant PR firm. I need your help making history. Around midnight I finally headed home, my mind racing with plans. Anthony was waiting up despite my earlier words. Emily, be reasonable, he started. You don't know anything about. I'm keeping the restaurant, I cut him off. And I'm moving into the small apartment above it while I get things running. You can either support me in this or... I let the sentence hang there, its implications clear. He stared at me, seeing something in my face that made him step back. You're serious about this? More serious than I've ever been about anything. He ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. Fine. Waste your time. But don't come crying to me when it fails even worse than it did under Mama's management. I smiled, thinking about Rosa's recipe book safely stored in my bag. Don't worry. I won't. The next morning I began making more calls, to suppliers, contractors, designers. I had $150,000 in savings, most of it set aside for the house Anthony had been wanting to buy. Now it would serve a different purpose. Maria and Marco showed up at the restaurant around noon, probably expecting to find me overwhelmed and ready to accept their offer. Instead they found me in Isabella's old office, now my office, surrounded by contractors' quotes and design plans. This is ridiculous, Maria sneered. You'll destroy Mama's legacy. I looked up from the papers on my desk, thinking about the true legacy hidden in that basement office. No, Maria. I'm going to restore it. The real legacy of Bella Rosa. And you're going to wish you'd paid more attention to your great-grandmother's secrets. They left in a huff, but I barely noticed. I was already focusing on my next task, reaching out to that small farm in Tuscany, hoping Rosa's old contacts were still valid. Because I had a plan, one that would make Isabella's final insult backfire in ways none of them could imagine. The next 3 months were a blur of 18-hour days and endless challenges. I poured every cent of my savings into transforming Bella Rosa, but not in the way everyone expected. While the Romano family probably imagined me turning it into some sort of fusion nightmare, I had a different vision. My first breakthrough came 2 weeks after finding Rosa's recipe book. After dozens of calls and emails, I finally reached Giorgio Martelli, grandson of the Tuscan farmer who had supplied Rosa's secret herb blend. Signorina Chen, his accented voice crackled over the international call. I remember the letters from my grandfather about Bella Rosa. He always said Rosa Romano was the only chef who truly understood how to use our herbs. And do you still grow them? I held my breath. See, the same fields, the same methods. But no one has ordered the special blend in many years. I smiled. I'd like to change that. The renovation work continued while I waited for the first shipment. Lucy's PR firm had started a subtle campaign, dropping hints in local food blogs about changes at Bella Rosa. The speculation grew when people noticed the construction work, the new deliveries, the late-night lights. Chef Jean-Pierre arrived from New York to help me test the recipes. We spent days in the kitchen, following Rosa's detailed instructions, adjusting techniques for modern equipment while maintaining the traditional flavors. Incroyable, he muttered, tasting our third attempt at Rosa's signature sauce. This is not just Italian cooking, this is art. The real test came when the herb blend arrived from Tuscany. The moment I opened the package, the kitchen filled with an aroma that brought tears to my eyes. This was it, the missing piece that had died with Rosa, the secret Isabella had never bothered to uncover. 2 months into the renovation, Anthony finally came to see what I was doing. He found me in the kitchen surrounded by testing plates and notes. Emily, he started, then stopped, taking in the transformed space. The kitchen gleamed with restored equipment and new additions. The walls, once cluttered with faded photos, now displayed a carefully curated history of Bella Rosa, centered around a restored photo of Rosa herself. "Try this," I said, offering him a spoonful of sauce. He hesitated, then tasted it. His eyes widened. This tastes like Bella Rosa did 40 years ago?" I supplied. "When your great-grandmother was still cooking. How did you?" I showed him the recipe book explaining about the hidden office, the Tuscan herbs, all of it. For the first time in our marriage, I saw respect in his eyes when he looked at me. Why didn't Mama know about any of this? Because she was too busy preserving her idea of tradition to look for its real roots, I said softly. She never went looking for what made this place special in the first place. The reopening was set for a Friday night in October. That morning I received 3 deliveries: fresh herbs from Tuscany, a new set of handmade plates from Italy, and a letter from Marco offering $200,000 for the restaurant. I placed the letter in Rosa's recipe book, a bookmark for the page containing her most famous recipe, the one we'd be serving tonight. The Romano family arrived as a group 15 minutes before opening. Maria's face was pinched with anticipation of failure. Marco looked smug. Various aunts, uncles, and cousins filed in, all ready to witness my humiliation. What they found instead was a completely transformed Bella Rosa. The dining room glowed with warm lighting, the tables set with elegant simplicity. The walls told the story of Rosa's legacy through carefully restored photos and memorabilia. And the aroma was exactly as it had been in Rosa's day. "What is this?" Maria demanded. "This," I said calmly, "is the real Bella Rosa. The one your great-grandmother built. Would you like to see the kitchen?" They followed me, whispering among themselves. The kitchen was a hive of activity. Chef Jean-Pierre was training my new staff, each station perfecting dishes from Rosa's book. "First seating is fully booked," Lucy announced, sweeping in with her tablet. "And the wait list for the next 3 months is growing." That article in the Globe really stirred up interest. Marco stepped forward. "Emily, be reasonable. I'll offer you $500,000 for the restaurant. Right now." I laughed. "Bella Rosa made $47,000 in pre-bookings this week alone, Marco. And that's before we've served a single meal." The door chimed. Our first real customers arriving. I gestured to the dining room. "You're welcome to stay and eat. In fact, I insist. I've reserved the family table." That night was magic. Every dish that left the kitchen was perfect. Rosa's recipes brought back to life through a combination of her detailed notes and modern expertise. The dining room filled with sounds I remembered from my grandmother's restaurant. The murmur of happy conversations, the clink of plates, the sighs of contentment. The Romano family sat at their table, growing quieter with each course. I watched their faces as they tasted dish after dish, saw the memories flooding back. Even Maria's carefully maintained disdain cracked when she tasted the veal, her childhood favorite, prepared exactly as Rosa had made it. By midnight, when the last customers had left, the family was still there. Anthony stood up first, coming into the kitchen where I was reviewing notes with my staff. "I'm sorry," he said simply. "I should have believed in you." One by one the others came too. Not to apologize. The Romanos weren't really the apologizing type, but to ask questions. About Rosa's recipes, about my plans, about how I discovered what Isabella had overlooked. 6 months later, Bella Rosa was named Best Italian Restaurant in Boston. A year after that, we opened our second location. The Romano family dynamics shifted too, slowly but noticeably. It's amazing how success can change people's perspectives. Maria's daughter Sophia started working in our kitchen last summer, eager to learn her great-great-grandmother's recipes. Marco's smug offers to buy the restaurant stopped after we crossed the $5 million annual revenue mark. And Anthony, well, we're working on things. He's learning to see me differently, to understand that respecting tradition doesn't mean being trapped by it. I keep Rosa's recipe book in my office now in a special display case. Sometimes late at night I'll sit there and read her notes, imagining her in this same kitchen decades ago, creating the dishes that would become legendary. Last week I received a letter from Giorgio in Tuscany. His daughter is studying sustainable agriculture, ensuring that Rosa's special herbs will continue growing for another generation. I'm flying her in this summer to learn about our restaurant, to understand how her family's farm connects to our legacy. Isabella's punishment turned out to be the greatest gift she could have given me. She thought she was leaving me a failing business, but instead she gave me the key to unlock a legacy that was just waiting to be rediscovered. The latest food critics review summed it up perfectly. Bella Rosa isn't just a restaurant. It's a testament to the power of understanding true tradition. Under Emily Chen's guidance, this legendary establishment hasn't just been revived. It's been revealed, reminding us all that the best traditions aren't the ones we cling to blindly, but the ones we take the time to truly understand. Every morning when I unlock the restaurant's doors, I look up at the sign, still the original one, now carefully restored. Bella Rosa glows warmly in the early light, and sometimes if I listen carefully, I can almost hear Rosa's voice in the quiet kitchen, whispering her secrets to another chef who finally understood what she'd been trying to preserve all along. The restaurant is fully booked 3 months in advance now. The Romano family doesn't laugh anymore when they hear my name. Instead, they bring their business associates to Bella Rosa, proudly introducing me as their daughter-in-law who restored our family's legacy. But the real satisfaction comes every evening, when I watch guests taste Rosa's recipes for the first time. Their expressions mirror what I felt when I first discovered that hidden book. The joy of finding something precious that was never really lost, just waiting for the right person to come along and understand its true value. Isabella meant to punish me with a failing restaurant. Instead, she gave me the chance to prove that preserving tradition isn't about keeping things exactly the same. It's about understanding the heart of what made them special in the first place. That's a lesson worth more than any inheritance could ever be.